all physical form is energy that is compressed, including us, including the chair that you're sitting in, including the screen that you're watching right now. Everything is energy. And so when we take on this creatorship type of role, we start learning to steer and point and focus the energies that are moving through this system in ways that become highly creative and very healing and very innovative in terms of generating the kind of life that you want to be living and the contributions that you can make to others because of the plenitude that is running through this system consistently.
Welcome to the MINDTRX podcast with breakthrough ideas to live your best life possible and how to make it happen. I'm Paul Scheele, and today we'll be talking with Dr. Sue Morter. Dr. Sue Morter is an international speaker and visionary in quantum field science and bioenergetics. She's the best-selling author of The Energy Codes, the 7-step system to awaken your spirit, heal your body, and live your best life. Through her teachings, Dr. Sue illuminates the relationship of quantum science and energy medicine. Her techniques help individuals activate untapped energy in the neurocircuitry of the body, empower hidden potential, and elevate consciousness. Dr. Sue serves on the faculty of 2 medical schools at Michigan State University. She's the founder of the Morter Institute for Bioenergetics and co-host of Your Year of Miracles lifestyle training. Hello, Dr. Sue. Thanks so much for being a part of this podcast. Great to see you.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be here. Anytime I get to be with you, Paul, it's a good day. It's a good day.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Even if it's on a virtual platform, I love being in your energy field as well. And hey, we're all connected, right?
Yes, right.
Well, I loved your new book, The Energy Codes. It's beautiful, very clear, lovely writing, and a great carrier of a deep message that now I feel like I know a lot more about you than I did originally, especially with your kind of the origin story of all of this energy work. Before we get into the codes, I'd like to talk about the 3 levels that we go through in consciousness development. Would you review those, please?
So many of us grow up inside of circumstances that we grow up in, and we don't think life can be any other way than the way that it is, the way that we've been oriented and the things that have been modeled to us, et cetera. And so in that, we have a tendency to not really know our deep, true power as a creator. We tend to think that we are subject to our environment, that I'm this way because my parents were this way, or I'm this way because I don't have, the socioeconomic background or the support that I would love to have, or these are my life circumstances. And so victimhood is really just kind of accepting those circumstances and not trying to do anything about it, or just assuming that this is pretty much the way my life is going to be because I was born this way, or whatever the case may be.
And that's really one of the powerful things about the human mind, is that it's really designed to find evidence of whatever it is we believe. So there's plenty of evidence to prove all of those limiting thoughts.
Right. Well, what we know about quantum science is showing us that we find what we're looking for. If we are looking to not have enough, or not be enough, or not have the breaks, or not have the luck, or what have you, that's exactly what shows up from the universe into our immediate environment. And so for those that are interested in feeling into the situation and finding that they really don't feel that they are reaching their maximum potential, or that life must have something more to offer them, and they don't really know exactly what to do to have that happen, but they're interested and they're seeing that there's a possibility that if it could work for them, maybe it could work for me, that there's this opening in our consciousness that might allow us to engage, to allow for things to shift. And so the whole self-help version, or that level of consciousness, is basically, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm going to make a better situation for myself. It's like the silver lining around the cloud, and that whole scenario of lemonade out of lemons and whatnot.
And also, don't you find that as we move to becoming authors of our own life and our story, that our soul steps in and nudges us in the right direction to find the right resources for this?
Totally. We just have to be willing to engage at that level. Like, I don't have evidence. I don't have reason to believe. I can't see exactly what I'm going to do to make something shift, but something inside is basically propelling me to go for it, to just take a step, even if it feels like a blind step. And it allows us to begin to see differently, or to allow for the flow, the opening opportunity of the energetics through our life system to illuminate in new ways.
Definitely. And when we really are feeling stuck, almost any step is going to at least give us some feedback of what's working and what's not. So there's a lot of great tools and technologies that can help us in this self-help stage. Certainly at Learning Strategies, that's how I was building all of my products. I know that as a chiropractor, that was, you were finding people coming in trying to get somewhere other than what they've been suffering.
And to trust in nature's flow. I came up through natural healthcare. So it's the only healthcare I've ever had. I've never gone to the doctor to take an antibiotic to get over something. I was raised in the understanding that the body can heal itself if all the systems are working the way that they're supposed to, and if they're talking to each other. And so it really becomes a matter of communication and integration within our system. And so once that starts to flow, once that energy starts to move, so many things that appear to not be changeable are completely malleable once we begin to allow the energy to flow again. And so that's really where the self-help category is really learning that if I begin, something will happen. If I just begin, the flow begins to move again. And as that flow is being established, my life can evolve and change along the way. It's a matter of taking that initiative before we can see that that's a safe or smart thing to do. It has to just be a thing that we're choosing to do sometimes without the evidence that it's all going to be fine. You're knowing that it is all going to be fine. That makes that easier.
And there are plenty of concrete indicators along the way that, I do feel a little lighter and freer when I do that thing. I should probably do more of that. But I love that idea that energy is now flowing. We'll talk about neurocircuitry a little bit later, but essentially what we're doing is we're really lighting up those circuits, and that leads us to stage 3, right?
Yes. So stage 3 it's actually kind of what I call a quantum flip, where we're moving into an entirely different perspective. And rather than trying to find the circumstances that are going to make my life better, or letting the outer world have such a huge determination of my inner experience, it's about flipping it over and basically recognizing that I'm in charge of my internal experience, regardless of my external circumstances. And I'm in charge of creating my life experience, no matter what. Like 100% of my life experience is actually based upon how I'm interpreting what's happening, but also the degree to which I will allow myself to be generative in my life, to be the one who's bringing it rather than waiting for the sign to be the sign, to bring the circumstances together that will allow for an outcome that I'm looking for, or at least an experience that I'm looking for. One of the things that I love clarifying for people is that if they will bring their attention to the experience that they're having versus the outcome, the actual score of the game, if you will, they're going to recognize that they can start generating an experience that they love having, even if it takes a different set of circumstances than they thought it was going to take in order to have that experience. So if someone's locked into, no, it has to be this house, or it has to be this person, or it has to be this job, or what have you, it starts to narrow down our options and our probabilities. And so when we start looking at, well, what is the experience I would rather be having? Now it can show up in thousands of different ways. And so it opens up the possibilities in our lives, et cetera. So creatorship is really recognizing that I have the power of the universe pouring through my system. When we really start to study bioenergetics and study quantum science and how it all fits together inside of the human experience, we realize that there is a funnel and a channeling that happens through this toric field flow through this human body. And really, the universe is what we're made of. And infinite potential is that. And so this unified field being compressed into this shape of an energy flow, it has unlimited resource that we can start to tap and identify with and ultimately identify as, meaning we're made of creative energy. The universe is made of creative energy. All physical form is energy that is compressed, including us, including the chair that you're sitting in, including the screen that you're watching right now. Everything is energy. And so when we take on this creatorship type of role, we start learning to steer and point and focus the energies that are moving through this system in ways that become highly creative and very healing and very innovative in terms of generating the kind of life that you want to be living and the contributions that you can make to others because of the plenitude that is running through this system consistently.
All I can do is put my hands up and say, yay, exactly what she said. Now, you use the term toric energy field, and just to let folks know, in case they're unaware, a torus is like a donut in terms of the way it looks. There's energy in the top and bottom, and it spirals around like that. And then basically, quantum physics says that what this universe is, as we perceive it, is a 7-dimensional enfolded field. It's a torus that every point, everywhere in that universe is connected to every point everywhere in that universe simultaneously. So what's beautiful about that is the full power and energy of the universe flowing through you as you is you. There is no place where you end and the universe begins. You're one and the same. So given that might be a pretty big pill for some folks to swallow, especially if they're in victimhood or even in self-help, ultimately that's where we're wanting to go. And your book does a beautiful job of guiding us there. Now, this quantum flip that you talk about, I'd like to focus on this because essentially there are two sides to this coin of the human experience. I love the simplicity of your metaphor, the front side and the back side. The back side more connected to victimhood, the front side more connected to our creatorship. So talk to us a bit about the fact that flip can actually happen pretty quick and at any moment in time, and what is that distinction that makes the difference?
It's really simple based on what we've been speaking about, that the backside of the model is feeling like, there's nothing I can do about my circumstances. This is the way that it is, and it's what I'm going to have to learn to deal with, and so forth. And the front side of the model of consciousness is realizing that I'm actually generating experiences to wake myself up to my own magnificence, that I'm actually attracting things into my life that might look like challenges. But if I look at it from a flipped perspective, I can see that this challenge is actually refining me in some way. It's polishing me. It's causing me to reach inside myself and discover some capacity that I didn't even know I had until this set of circumstances unfolded in my life. And instead of being taken down by it, it's to look at it as if it showed up right on time, right in terms of, this is now what I'm ready to undertake. This is now what I'm ready to awaken to. How do I know? Because it's happening. I'm ready and available because the intersection is occurring. And so in the midst of that, what gets to happen is I get to discover more of who I am, instead of thinking the world isn't in support of me and these people don't care. That actually, there's another thing in the book that I love discussing with people, which is this bus stop conversation, which is basically on our way in, we have these soul contract types of circumstances that get arranged. And in the midst of that, we basically say, at some point I want to awaken to courage or to forgiveness. And so in order to awaken to that, something has to happen in my life that is nearly unforgivable, that I'm going to have to reach inside myself and find a level of forgiveness that would be necessary in order for me to realize I don't want to continue to suffer over my anger or my angst or my grudge that I've been carrying around. So I have to find some way to release this or to soften in the presence of it. And a byproduct of that is I get to discover who I am and what my capacities are. And so at the end of the day, I'm actually not angry that this thing has happened in my life. I'm grateful that this thing has happened in my life because it has caused me, nudged me, elbowed me, scrubbed me down in some way that is now causing me to realize the capacity for love that I have, the capacity for beginning again that I have. And when we start to learn those things about ourselves, we're starting to step into our true creatorship. It's a vibrational match to the truth of who we are versus being stuck as this personality that has been, measuring and comparing and competing and controlling and condemning and all the things that lovely personality does when it's trying to protect itself.
I find that even our biggest traumas, our greatest setbacks, which we would never wish on anyone else, those are the very things that put us on the path to who we are today. That, as one of my teachers said, we always hide our true power behind the thing we fear most. So when we recognize that we could step through that fear and discover the true power that we are, now we're on it. And to a certain extent, you're saying, it's that easy. It's a quantum flip. It really isn't that big of a deal energetically. However, I do want to say you qualify that in a lot of very neat ways. And it's about opening up the circuitry. But I want to read something that you wrote in your book. For millennia, spiritual traditions have espoused the notion that we are spiritual beings having an earthly or physical experience. I'd like to offer another understanding of that point, that actually we're spiritual beings having a spiritual experience in a physical, energetic world. I really love this. And that to experience and live the fullness of our true nature, we must begin consciously living as beings of spirit, as energy beings. And you say this means we must go beyond knowing intellectually that we're energy or spirit and actually embody our energetic or spiritual nature. We must literally bring our energy to life within the physical and identify as that energy. So this idea that wherever we feel disconnected from our power, from our potential, from the love or the abundance that we would like to experience, right there is a place for our awakening. Could you talk a little bit about this embodying process? I mean, that's what all the 7 codes are about. But could you just give a brief understanding of what's the difference between understanding it intellectually and embodying it?
Yeah, I always say that enlightenment isn't enough. It's about embodying, becoming, living into that which we awaken to. So whatever it is that we're realizing is possible, we have to not know it as a concept, but to live into it, to walk into it in action, in decision making, in our thought processes, in our self-talk, that all of it has to shift. And that's why I call it a quantum flip. It's just this energetic shift where we realize I'm not a human being that has a soul and a spirit. I'm a spirit that operates as a soul that has a body and has a mind. I created a body and a mind for myself so that I could navigate here in this physical world. But I am actually this soulful, loving, living presence of spirit. And so when we begin to think of it in these terms, everything begins to shift because we're not seeking something. We actually are realizing I am that thing that I've been seeking. And when I stop seeking it, I can put my attention on being it. And when I put my attention on being that which I used to seek, I start to develop a capacity to be creative. Instead of wanting and not having, I start having. and not wanting. I start having and expressing and sharing and coming from a place that is whole and full and complete, where nothing is broken and nothing is wrong and nothing is missing. And I start engaging in life as if that is so, because it is so. So you're not making it up. You're just training your mind to perceive differently who and what you really are.
Well, because so much of our early life is about doing to be, it's really tough for some folks to make that shift, that if you're going to do this job so you can earn money so that you can be happy, well, wait, happiness is a state of being, not a state of doing. Why don't we start the journey with happiness today as I awaken? And then all of my doing is going to be transformed energetically for the better. How do you suggest that people develop that habit of starting from being, as opposed to looking at a project and realize they got to roll up their sleeves and get at this?
Yes. So, I have an image that I use when I'm teaching some of my courses. This toric field flow that we're talking about is energy descends, it hits the earth, gets transformed for human consumption, I call it. And then as it rises up, the energy rises up, comes out the top of the head, comes out around the outside of the body, recycles back in at the spine, comes right back up, out the crown, cycles around in this donut fashion. So this is happening left and right. It's happening in front and it's happening behind. And it's this whole energy flow that's constantly happening. And how I reference it is spirit descends and the soulful energy rises. And the soul is here to become refined, to work it out, to become better at doing this life thing without distortion, without any sort of hedging or hesitation, etc. And so that's the ideal. And this is how most people are operating. There is this descending energy that hits the earth, and as it starts to rise, it has to go around the aspects of our system that aren't yet awake. And so if I don't have a belief that this life is in support of me, or I don't have an understanding that I'm empowered to lead with love in my relationships, regardless of what the other person is capable of doing in any given moment, or if I've been shut down in terms of love or an idea of who I am, or my purpose being valuable, or my presence being valid on the planet, then we have short circuitings. Or if I've had negative experiences along the way, maybe I've been shut down in some of those areas. Well, I'll never be hurt again. I'll just shut that down. I'm never going there again. I'm not going to love again. Those types of things happen. And so what ends up revealing is this rising soulful essence has to go around the areas that we've been shut down in, or that have never really come online because we never really had the opportunity for that. And so in this rising energy, when it goes around these areas of short circuitings, if you will, it creates a wobble, which creates a distortion in the toric field flow. So now this person is standing here in a distorted energy field. It looks out through this distortion and sees a world that doesn't care, a world that doesn't offer the opportunities, etc. So what I am teaching people how to do is to build the circuitry here across these gaps in the highway. Think of these like giant potholes or crevices in the highway. And if we can build, and we can, the circuitry straight through those, or bridges across those gaps and chasms, then we start to restore this distortion to this perfected expression in terms of the energy field and our experience. So it's important for us to realize that we have the ability to build circuitry, to turn it on, to turn on the circuitry that's been shut down through our whole system.
Okay, so that was a question that I had coming out of your book. The idea is that the circuits are there.
Yeah.
But they're not lit up. The energy isn't flowing there because there may have been a circuit breaker or a disconnect of some kind. Yeah. And I connect that to the reptilian, the mammalian brain, the neocortex, in hopes that we get to that prefrontal area where we've got this unitive wiring where everything is connected. It's instantaneous knowing, future, past, all of it's right there for us. But in that process of trying to get an open mind, an open heart, an open will to trust and surrender to this energy that's that's moving through us, there are practices, and this is the beauty of your book. The practices aren't particularly difficult. There's meditation, there's breathing, there's postures. All of these things are helping to build, should I say neurocircuitry, or is it psychospiritual circuitry?
The answer is yes. It's
Okay.
all because the nervous system is also made of energy. And
Right.
it is an electromagnetic energy system built the nervous system in the developing embryo. So this energetic is coming together and it's creating patterns through geometrical shapes that allow for the development of the nervous system. So we know that we are electromagnetic. The nervous system is basically operating as the electrical part of all this. The magnetism is actually what develops the nervous system. So the master system of the whole body is an energy system that is electromagnetic in nature, and it is primary. It is based on things like we know that if we pay attention in a certain way, if we focus our mind, these little packets of energy called photons gather in proportion to our focus. So if we focus outside of ourselves all the time, we're creating photon density in our outer world. If we start paying attention to our inner world, we start creating photon density in our inner realm. And a byproduct of that is we end up having a greater sense of self. And so we can feel ourselves in there instead of only being able to, like the empath is able to feel what other people are feeling. And if that empath can learn to direct their attention to their inner realm as well, they also can develop a super psychic capacity internally about their own needs and their own desires ahead of time, and to be able to be super tuned in to how to prevent and how to create and how to be proactive instead of having to wait for something to happen and then figure out how we feel about it and react in that way. So what we're doing is creating electromagnetic circuitry that then the sensory nervous system can pick up on greater photon density and now relay messages, motor and sensory, up and down through the body to better run and heal our bodies in ways that we weren't even aware that we weren't doing before, because our attention wasn't in the inner world. It was in the, focused on the outer world. And so a byproduct is we suffer, right?
And I love the science that you bring into it. It's been revealed that cells collect those photons on the cell membrane. We always thought that the cell operated based on the mitochondria directing things. So consciousness really is creative, and especially important when it comes to healing. So one of the things that I certainly found in my work and human development through the years, I was privileged to be connected to the Himalayan tradition of yoga, science, and philosophy, and became a meditator at the ripe old age of 18. And that made all the difference in the world to me. I sought it, I found it, I practiced it. And at this stage in my life, I recognize it's non-negotiable. I absolutely have got to do my yoga routine in the morning and sit for meditation and prayer. I mean, it is what I do. And if I don't, for whatever circumstances going on at the moment, you know what it's like doing a 5 a.m. flight somewhere, right?
Yes.
It really does shift the energy flow in my life. If I miss more than a day, especially start to notice it. What are the mandatory must-do, really ought to have this a part of your daily routine steps?
Yeah, well, I'm with you, Paul. Yoga and meditation are a must-do in my world because there's such a communication system that has a chance to be enhanced and to be animated and to be activated in our lives if we will allow for that. Now, some people have a difficult time meditating, and some people feel like they aren't really a yogi and they can't do the bendy, twisty, stretchy, pretzel-y kind of stuff, but that's not necessary in order to benefit from both of those ideas. Both of those arenas have something to offer everyone. And so I try to approach those types of things in the book from a standpoint that anyone can do this kind of thing. And there are ways to do it that are greatly enhancing. And so I'd like to answer your question with a third possibility that I also infuse inside of meditation and inside of the body awake yoga that I teach and that I developed and teach, because it is an additional realm that, when applied in anyone's life, will change their ability to be clear and to be present and to stay present and to be strong and to self-heal and to become more creative. And it's building or turning on the circuits that we're talking about. So what I'd love to do is just give people a little exercise. It'll just take us a couple seconds here to do this, but it's so valuable to learn how to do this that I think it would be probably the best way my best offering for our people today.
Let's do it. Absolutely.
Excellent. So if somebody comes in the room that you're sitting in right now and says something to you that upsets you, we have a tendency to get into our heads and ask, why do you do these things that are upsetting to me? Or what's wrong with me that I keep attracting people into my life that do and say these kinds of things? And so we get caught in the why, and then we get up in our heads to try to answer that question. And the solution to that is not found in the head. It's found in the rest of the body. And here is what I mean. If we would ask a better question in that moment, like, where in my body do I feel a charge when you do what you do or say what you say, or I see on the news what I see, or I read in the papers what I read, and it's upsetting to me, instead of asking, why are these people or why is this happening? Ask a better question. Where in my body am I being activated because of this happening? Because the body is representing various levels of consciousness. At the root of our system are certain aspects of our consciousness. At the navel level, there are other vibrational frequencies, versions of our consciousness. At the solar plexus level, different aspects of our consciousness, like our personal power, our deep core wisdom, our inherent sense of well-being, our ability to love unconditionally ourselves and others and what's happening, our ability to express and to manifest and to create what we want and what we choose and what we feel drawn to, our recognition, our remembrance of our multidimensionality and our enhanced inherent empowerment regarding our creatorship and our, of course, origin as source energy itself. So all of these levels of consciousness need to be able to contribute to our actions in the world and our responses in the world. And so if those circuits are shut down and we're bypassing them all the time, we're not gleaning from the power that is there. So instead of asking, why do you do that? Ask a better question. Ask, where in my system am I not activating the levels of consciousness that I own, that I am? Where am I short-circuited? Where am I not utilizing my empowerment? So your mind is going to go somewhere the moment you ask the question. And so let's say someone's standing in the doorway, they say something to you. Maybe you could just think right now of something that's happening in your life that's challenging and that's difficult, and just ask, where in my body could I build some better circuitry to be able to support and sustain my okayness, no matter what those people or those circumstances are doing or saying or what is unfolding in my life? And your mind is going to go here, or it's going to go here, or it's going to go here, or it's going to go to the gut, or it's going to go low. Your mind will land somewhere, because mind, body, and breath are inherently designed to be working in unison, in union, as one system. But we've separated them out and not even known that we did that. And so we're not even trying to get them back together. And so the energy codes is about, how do I get them back together? So you simply ask, where could I build some circuits so that I'm okay and stable while you're doing what you're doing, so that I might even make a difference in how you are feeling or being or perceiving this world, instead of having to take care of myself and being victimized by what just happened. I realize I'm not at the effect of you. So the only way we can really get authentically to that place is to build more circuitry. And so to turn on more circuitry. I call it build it because it feels industrious. People like that. I'm going to build some circuits. And so your mind's going to go somewhere. So what I suggest that you do is that you hug that area on the inside of the body. You just give it a little squeeze and you stay right there with it. Now, I teach all sorts of practices in the book that will teach you how to align inside this central core channel of that toric field, because here's where your power is. It's not out here. It's right here in your own central channel. It's called the sushumna in ancient Eastern tradition, Sanskrit terminology. It's where the central hot channel of juice is that will change everything and integrate everything and heal from the inside out. So if you hug that area, wherever your mind went, and you start breathing up and down this channel with a loving presence, with special attention in that area, what happens is you start to carve a pathway right through an area that you were dodging around. The reason you have a reaction to what the person standing in the doorway is saying is because you've not activated the wholeness of your being. You've not turned on all of you. If all of you was lit up and integrated and turned on, anybody could say or do anything and it wouldn't have an effect on you. You would just read it from this perspective of creatorship that says, this person is in trouble. If they're charging or projecting onto me or angry or what have you, they're in trouble. I'm not, they are. And I need to be able to assist if I'm going to make a difference in this world. And the only way I can truly authentically assist without compromising myself is if I understand and am living as the wholeness of my being.
Gorgeous. So what makes that super simple is that it's just about moving to the energy that's being disruptive. Now, I can go to a lot of other explanations from cognitive and, psychological areas as well. Beautifully said. I love the simplicity of the model. Anytime that we're feeling that disconnect, we don't even have to put a label on the feeling itself. Just know it as energy and locate where in my body. For example, someone says, oh, that just breaks my heart. Gives you an idea where it is. Oh, that just chokes me up or just suffocates me or I just get nauseated when I hear that. They're pointing to it already. But wherever that energy is, they can pause and simply with a breath, I'm assuming that's connected, they're breathing and embracing the energy that's there, loving the energy as their energy, that very creative energy that is used to create the world that they live in. Do I have it?
Yes, exactly that. And
beautiful.
It allows us to then project a more accurate movie that we're walking through. Science is showing us that we're just projecting onto a movie screen, and it's sort of like this. I have an image for this too. The unified field compresses into this funnel, into this channel, hits the earth, rises up in this toric field, and then we project either accurately or inaccurately onto, if my hand was a movie screen, and we're just walking through this movie all of our lives. That's what we're doing. And so if I have those circuits that are shut down that we were describing, then some of these colors of our rainbow movie would be distorted or shut down or dim. And so I'm projecting an inaccurate or incomplete movie that I'm trying to navigate. And so it looks like things are missing in my life, but it isn't true. It's just that I've shut down some of my circuitry. And so I'm not able to fully and accurately project onto the movie screen the wholeness of my being. So it looks like my life is missing something, but it's just a reflection and designed as such to give me feedback as to how I'm shutting myself down and not resonating in these frequencies that would allow abundance and joy and delight and love and reparative, rejuvenative circumstances and energies, to heal.
I love it. So this idea that one teacher of mine said, all that I see is me, is the idea that this projection that's going out in front of me really is the mirror that can help me see whatever distortions that are here. So if humanity is going to come together as one human family, the idea of fighting war in order to resolve our differences, if that upsets me, there is this need for me to find peace in here, to find communication in here, to be able to let that show up. You know my wife, Libby, and she
Yes.
was at the grocery store one day, and the person at the counter said, is there anything else that you need? And she said, well, if you could help me with world peace, that'd be great. He said, how are things in your family? And she went, ooh, yeah, I got a problem with a brother. So, yeah.
Start with the small world, right?
Right. Let's start locally. And even more locally, which is what I love what you're saying, is there some disenfranchised part of myself that got shut down for whatever good reason during my history in victimhood? And hey, we're all born into the world utterly helpless. We are indeed at the mercy of those around us to guide us. So until we recognize that we can decide how the world goes, we come through these stages of growth. So great time to start is right now, right?
Yes, yes. And that's totally what I do all day long. Just to get back to your question, is that whenever a thought of my own is stressful, I ask, where in my body could I build more circuits so that I could see this situation differently, so that I could see it in a way that's opening and enlivening and at the very least relieving to the energies that are being generated by my current interpretation of the situation. Everyone knows that we need to change how we're looking at things in order to feel less stress and to become more animated and enlivened in life. And most people don't know how to do that. Though, how do I think differently? If I could, I would. And so what I find is that the more circuits that we build along the way every day, the more we have this superhighway, because there are billions of bits of information that are bombarding us in terms of guidance and what we need to do every millisecond. And it arrives on the little surface of every cell of our body. And that information then gets translated inside the cells and turned into chemistries and neurotransmitters that are giving rise to this information from our guts to our hearts, all the way up through our primitive brains and up into these high brain centers, where we can make executive decisions and think the way that we want to think and choose and be in creatorship very easily. And so if that system isn't hooked up, it's not so easy. So little by little, circuit by circuit by circuit, we connect them. We start to build this flowing system in a week's time, in a month's time, in a year's time. That time's going to go by either way. So why not spend it a little bit of time every day while you're living life, letting life show you what your spiritual practice of the moment needs to be, and build a superhighway so that we feel like we belong and that we feel in charge and collaborative and shoulder to shoulder with life, instead of being, submissive or subservient to or victimized by things that aren't really true. And in doing so, we can find our empowerment and rise up as whole people that don't need to duke it out, don't need to fight, don't need to be at the effect of, but instead can find solutions and be collaborative and be loving and kind and generous in these ways. So,
wow, at that point, you just drop the mic on the stage and walk off, because you nailed it right there. Very nicely said. Couldn't have written it any clearer, which you did in several ways in your book. It's a beautiful book, The Energy Codes. And also, I want to emphasize this point that you made. I mean, it might take weeks, it might take months, it might take a year for you to really recognize that you can get energy flowing in some of these areas that have been really disconnected or switched off for a while. But it's time that's going to pass anyway. Do your practice. And the practice, I love that you threw in spiritual practice, because so many people think meditation is a spiritual practice, but it's a life practice. It's embodied awareness. Mindfulness is embodied awareness. It's choicefulness. It's recognition of the energy that's flowing. And for me, the switch turned on through breath awareness when I was a young man going to university. Just an awareness of the movement of breath. And if that's flowing without being held, right? Then the emotions are flowing, the thoughts are flowing. I'm in the flow of that universal energy that's here. So if there was one practice that a person might do each day, just to be in that state of being, what would you say?
You know, the slowing down the mind by slowing down the breath and deepening the breath into the deeper parts of the body helps people stabilize the nervous system out of fight or flight and into creative genius. If we draw our breath low into the belly and slow it down, stretch it out long, even learn how to thicken or quicken inside your throat so that you close down the aperture so that you're taking in small amounts of air for a longer period of time. You can inhale and exhale. It allows your mind to settle down and to feel and find you low in your belly, low in your body. Because when we're there, we are at peace. And when we're not at peace, we work our way up into living in our heads, and our chests get tight, and we get headaches and all the things that come with fight or flight or sympathetic dominance, just that protective personality in charge. And to what I find, to just for anyone walking down the street, driving the car, being in a conference room, in a meeting, or being on Zoom calls with, anything that the holidays, whatever it might be that might put the squeeze on someone, just slow your breath down, deepen your breath in your body, and learn to stretch it out, because the more spaciousness that we can create between our thoughts, the better off we are, the more we allow peace to rise up from within us. If our thoughts are just relentless, they're squeezing out this wisdom and love that's trying to rise all the time. And so as a walking, talking, living presence that is low in the body, beneath the heart, supporting it with our wisdom and our personal identity, we are able to walk and talk as wise, loving, empowered presences on the planet. It feels better on the inside. It certainly makes a better difference in how we respond to life circumstances and what we have to say to others or about others, etc. All begins to shift simply because we're experiencing our own wholeness, and our thoughts change, our actions change when we are able to experience our own wholeness in such a way.
Gorgeous. That's beautiful. Thank you so much for that. And thank you also for being such an important role model on this planet at this important time of human history. I really love and appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you, Paul. It's always a great, great joy to be with you.
I hope you enjoyed our conversation with Dr. Sue Morter. You can learn more about Dr. Sue at drsuemorter.com. That's drsuemorter.com. And now in the second part of the podcast, it's just you and me. I'll tell you how to use the Paraliminal sessions in the MINDTRX app to easily handle obstacles and move toward the success you want, especially as it relates to Dr. Sue's message. If you're new to the relaxing Paraliminal audio sessions, they use breakthrough technologies to activate your whole mind in only 20 minutes to help improve any area of your life. Let's get going. Welcome to this follow-on to my conversation with Dr. Sue Morter and our examination of her very cool processes in her book, The Energy Codes. To apply your use of paraliminal technology to some of the key ideas that she presented, I'd like to offer 4 areas that we might think about. The first is this area of tuning into the energy flow. Second is being able to open the circuits for greater expression of who we are. The third is to actually then create the life that we choose to live. And finally, it's about living as an energetic being on a daily basis. So let's explore it. First, this idea of tuning in to the energy flow. If you haven't really spent much time exploring meditation or how this energetic movement takes place within us, a great place to start is to lay down in what's called the corpse pose, on your back, supported behind your neck, your arms and hands alongside of your body, palms facing up, probably your arms away from your body, maybe 18 inches or so. And then your feet separated about 18 inches apart as well. Sometimes helps to put just behind your knees, maybe a rolled up towel, so that you really do feel your whole body comfortable, supported, and then listen to the deep relaxation paraliminal. This is a progressive relaxation, and you're going to go through your entire body, opening up any areas within you that may have been a little more locked down with tension. In fact, the tension and release, the work with the breath, the relaxation by going through point to point within you, it's all contained in the deep relaxation paraliminal. Now, if you're familiar with paraliminals and you've listened to this before, you probably just zoned out. If you really want to feel the energy, it's great to pay close attention and actually let all of those words in the paraliminal just flow over you. Stay present to what's happening. The second area is this idea of opening the circuits for greater expression of the true power and potential that's within us. And I think that overcoming overwhelm is a great place to start because it goes through the basic process of relaxing the shoulders, relaxing the face, relaxing the breath. And all of these are designed to upregulate the brain into those higher areas of perceptual ability in the prefrontal cortex. And the overcoming overwhelm paraliminal moves us away from whatever it is that seems to be stressing us in the outside world and realigns us with that core energy field that Dr. Sue was referring to. She mentioned that when we're set off by something, it's best if we can ask a better feeling question instead of, why is it that you always do this to me? What is it within me? Where am I feeling the energy of this as a result of what that person said? And that squeeze, whatever is there, basically needs an energetic hug. And overcoming overwhelm is going to be a great place to do that. And the third area is the area of creating the life that you choose to live. And now, Dr. Sue is quite convinced that we are the creator of all that we see. And my teacher, Arnold Patton, also really helped drill that into me. All that I see is me. So if we're seeing the world and it's not the way we want it to be, how would we like it to be? And in that, the paraliminal called conscious time is a great one because it starts the day with a determination of how is it that you would like to live the time that you're going to live today. We can't save time. We can only spend it. And we have 24 hours on this day to spend it. How are you choosing? So it really brings us to that place of choosing how this day is going to go. The final area is the area of living as an energetic being. Now, who you are is energy. You are an energetic being in an energetic universe. All there is energy. Everything is energy. So what does that mean to actually live it? It means instead of focusing on our doing, focusing on our being. And while a lot of paraliminals are dedicated to make sure you have the capability to do whatever it is you're choosing to do, at its fundamental nature, it's about starting with being so that all of your doing in the world is made easier. It's also an important shift that if you want to create peace or joy or happiness or gratefulness or passion for what it is you're doing, a sense of contentment in life, all of those are states of being. And starting mentally, emotionally, physically in those states means that everything you do in the world is going to be made much more easily. It's going to be a sense of ease and grace, a little bit lighter, a little bit freer. All of those will be your experience. So one of the ways that we posit that in our being is through a paraliminal called prosperity, which sees that you have access to universal abundance, and your prosperity consciousness is your access to it. So prosperity is a great one. Again, doesn't have to be financial prosperity. It could be energy. It could be relationships. It could be growth. It could be whatever it is that you choose. Prosperity is going to be able to help bring that to you in abundance, heaped up and overflowing. Another paraliminal, very helpful here, would be joy. Joy is that fundamental energy of the heart center. It's our sense of passion for the world. It's our creative expression of love into the world, loving what we do, loving who we are, loving those around us. So joy is a great one to really help anchor into us this concept of living as an energetic being. So those are the 4 areas. Those are the recommended paraliminals. Do enjoy your paraliminal listening experiences. Keep in mind that each time you listen to one, even if all you're going to do is just take a little nap while it's playing, perfectly okay. Make sure that you establish your intention at the beginning, and your mind will find that creative way to bring it to you right away. All right? Thanks so much. Peace and blessings. Thank you for joining me today. I applaud your willingness to maximize your potential. You can easily use the Paraliminal audio sessions in the MINDTRX app to stimulate your non-conscious mind, that is your inner mind, to reduce any resistance in your life and to propel you toward the success you want. Go to www.mindtrx.com/go. That's www.mindtrx.com/go. These amazing audio tools have helped millions, and I encourage you to bring them into your world today. Be sure to be back for more episodes of the MINDTRX podcast. You'll find insightful conversations with authors, experts, and thought leaders, all devoted to improving your life's experience. Thank you again for being here on our MINDTRX podcast.